Hey there everybody, and welcome back to Sasquatch Speaks. I am Sasquatch, otherwise known as Gavisas, welcoming you all back once again to, again, we will stick with it, our dark little corner of the internet, where, people are scared off by me. Anyway, today we're going to be picking up where we left off yesterday. I do apologize. I talked for 15 minutes on my topic, but never actually got to what I wanted to say. Hopefully today that will not be the case. So, getting into how I actually got into home gaming and stuff. I know yesterday I talked a lot about the theory behind gaming and how it's an art form, and touched a little bit on cabinet gaming at arcades and stuff, and how that kind of got me interested in it. But my first home gaming experience, perhaps it set the tone for my wanting to be a monster hunter and all that, but my first home gaming experience was actually over at a friend's house who had an old Windows 95 computer. And on his Windows 95 computer, this shows how old it is because they didn't have Windows 98 yet, they only had Windows 95. He had a game called Browning African Safari. And Browning African Safari was about the most repetitive game you can ever imagine. And to this day, if anyone ever says, do you want to play African Browning Safari, I will say absolutely yes, because that game is amazing. I know a lot of people got their starts on the NES or the Sega systems or anything like that. Nope. I started out in the PC Master Race, and I have to get back there somehow. Because, consoles, I'm losing faith. So, Browning African Safari, it's exactly. It sends you to Africa, you show up there with $2,000 in your pocket, you have to buy a gun, ammunition, water, malaria medication, a map, a guide so you can shoot the right animals and not have to pay tariffs and stuff, or not tariffs, but fees and stuff to get your kills out of the country. And perhaps this is also why I have such a fascination with Africa as well. Maybe. But then you go out and you get out in the woods, and it's a in-place shooter. You stay in one place, and all you see is a little reticle on the screen showing where your bullets are going to go. And you can turn all the way around the area, and you can shoot impala, wildebeest, zebra, crocodiles, rhinoceros, lions. And, what was the other one? There's one more, and I can't remember what it was. Crocodiles, rhinoceros, Cape buffalo. And so, the basis of the story is that there's this rich guy, and he's trying to start up an African museum. And so he sends you over to Africa with a gun and a guide to shoot these animals and then bring back trophies. And then, he pays you money for whatever you kill, and then he sends you back, and you can kill basically as much as you want, as long as you don't come back early. And if you come back early, you're done, because they make you pay all the fees to bring the animals back into whatever country it is. And if you shoot much more than about a wildebeest, you're done. And I mean one wildebeest. They charge you per animal, per kill, the whole 9 yards. So it's rather frustrating, to say the least, because it's not really frustrating, because the easy way to get around it is just to, they give you 7 days, which are 20 minutes. At 20 minutes apiece, you go out into the woods, and you shoot a bunch of animals, and you come back in. There's 6 or 7 different areas, and it's a really fun game. It's a great way for the 5-year-old me to get into gaming. In terms of the whole progression and understanding some of the core concepts that are still around in gaming nowadays, like aim. But it was as good as that game was. I mean, and of course, anytime there's a good game, honestly, it is still. It might just be nostalgia, but still, if someone comes up to me and says, "Hey, I got this copy of the old Browning African Safari," would you like to play it? I'm like, yes, sure. If they tell me that I have the copy of the sequel, I'm going to spit in their face and say no, because they ruined the sequel. Oh, it was so frustrating. No, like I said, the first one was so good because all you had to do is stay there for the full week, and you could get home scot-free and not have to pay anything. In the sequel, it didn't matter. And I mean, it could have been so good because they upped it to like 15 or 16 different animals, and they added a whole bunch of new areas, and I think there was even a new weapon that you could use, and it was so much potential. But the thing that made the first one work was that if you waited the full 7 days, you didn't have to pay out any extra money to get your kills home. In the sequel, you had to pay it didn't matter. Did not matter. If you killed it, you had to pay for it. And they didn't tell you this at the start, so you're like, you get out there and you shoot something every day, or 2 or 3 things a day, and I mean, it's kind of like the old buffalo hunters in the Wild West, who would get hired by the railroad, and they just go out there and just shoot these buffalo all day long because they didn't understand what the shots were, and all of a sudden, like, all their families just like falling down around them because these people are just shooting at random into this herd of buffalo until they all fall down. It was basically that in a video game form. And I was pretty good at the game, so I'd go home in the first game, I'd go home every time I played through one of the excursions with like 30 or 40 animals in my pouch. And I'm like, this is the greatest thing ever. I just shoot until I don't feel like I have to worry about it anymore. So I go through that, and I'm like, okay, the second one came out, there's all these cool little animals. Of course, this one's on like the updated system, Windows 98, better graphics, slightly better graphics. Still the same basic interface and everything, the same exact storyline, same exact guy doing the same exact museum. You just have a couple more animals to shoot. I'm like, okay, well, it should be more fun, right? So I get out there and I buy my gun with my start with $2,000, and I buy my gun, I buy my scope, and I buy, actually I didn't buy the gun. The bow and arrow was like the best thing ever because you could shoot multiple animals and it wouldn't scare the other ones away. Whereas if you shot with a gun, then you go bang and just scare them and they'd all run away if there was more than one of them in the area. So I always did the bow and arrow. The first day, there's like 15 new animals I took down. Like, yeah, this is the greatest thing. And I go through the second day and the third day, and all the way to the 7th day, and I click them off and get the last animal. My pouch is just absolutely full. I got like 20 or 30 animals in there, and I go home. Great. And then it's like, now pay your hunting fees. And I'm, screw that. I'm like, I got no money. I just bought, like, of course, you go and you buy your water, you buy malaria medication, and your bug spray, and your sunscreen, in terms of gameplay. And just, he's like, yes, okay, got it. And then it's like, pay for all these animals you just killed. I'm like, with what? I spent it all just trying to kill the stupid things. And now you're just, so yeah, they ruined that game. The first one was perfect. The second one was terrible. Which is a shame because it could have been, like I said, it could have been just as good and even better than the first one because, they messed it up. Anyway, so moving on from there, I was still like really big into hunting because my uncle, I talked about him before. He was a hunter and he took me to some places and he taught me how to shoot and all sorts of stuff. So hunting was still a big thing. So I got into like Cabela's and which was a good idea, like having like gameplay footage, or not like gameplay footage, but like actual hunting footage. And then you shoot. You put your cursor over the animal and it detects where it would hit. It's like, okay, it's an interesting idea, but not that great. And then there was Deer Hunter, which is basically you just go and hunt a deer, and that was pretty cool. Having now actually gone and hunt and gone on an actual deer hunt, I have to say that's a very accurate representation, even as far back as I was playing it on Deer Hunter 2. Except for you could do cheat codes like Deerzilla made you have like just massive deer all the time. They were like 300 and 400 pound, just massive deer. Trophy Buck, which made all the deer that you would encounter male, and have no less than like 12 points on them. You could do DH2 shoot, which would instantly drop you in front of a deer. And then it was kind of like quick scoping nowadays on like Call of Duty and stuff. You just bring up your gun real fast and press fire, and you'll probably kill the deer. DH2 tracker would show you where they all are on your map. Just all the little cheat codes and stuff you could find. That was probably the first game that I played with actual like cheat codes. Also, as weird as this is, well, actually, you know what? It's not weird. It was another one of those really cool games. I remember when I first got a PC at my house. It was the first system that we had that could actually like play games. The first like electronics thing. I mean, like board games on the last episode, but this was the first electronic thing we could actually play games on. And the first game that they got for us was Chex Quest. And it wasn't actually they got it for us. It was my uncle brought it with him because he got it out of a box of cereal or something. And Chex Quest, if you don't know, plays off. I'm pretty sure it plays off the original Doom engine, where you're just like walking through these corridors and all you see is like your gun pointed out straight in front of you. And if you, again, left click is to fire and right click is to reload or whatever, and you just kind of walk around with the WASD keys. And I had so much fun with that game. I'd play it for hours on end. Just these little slime monsters would come up, and I don't think I ever actually beat it though. It'd be interesting to get it again and try and see if I could beat it now with better reflexes and more experience in terms of gaming and stuff. But I could never. Plus, I think if you died, you were sent back automatically to the beginning of the game, and there was no like saving partway through, which was tragic. But it was such another one of those games. It was just like really, really interesting. Just maybe not the best execution. As well, I take it back. It was really good, really well executed. Especially in terms of like, 8-year-old me who finally got a computer and was like, "Oh, this is the best thing ever!" And you can run up here and you can shoot them with this, and you got the little Zorchers, that's what they were called. And they weren't phasers, they weren't blasters or laser guns. You had to Zorch the monsters. This greatest thing ever. But of course that kind of fell by the wayside. I got into a little. It was weird because at one point you go from that. Okay, well I don't want to play like this kid game anymore. It's all about cereal. And we played like the Cap'n Crunch game too. That was interesting. That was a stupid game. I take it back. That was just a really stupid game. It's fun for a while. It's a lot better than a lot of the like the cereal branded games are. I mean, see, if we're talking about cereal branded games, that one is much better than some of the ones that are out now. Because I mean, you get to train up your little crunchling, and it's kind of like it's almost like a shonen manga of just how, or manga for the people who are really purists about how to pronounce that. But it's almost like a shonen manga. You start with this little thing, and you train him up, and he gets a little bit bigger, and you train him some more, and he gets a little bit bigger, and finally he gets really big, and you have to use all your skills to beat the evil crunch monster. And for like 9 or 10-year-old me, it was the coolest thing ever. Like, oh, it's so cool. But it looks like that kind of went on a little bit, and you get into a little bit more different things. I actually haven't played a PC game in years. Though, like I said, I do want to get back into it because Master Race and also Minecraft. But that's another story. So you go on a little bit farther, and I played with The Sims for a little bit, like Roller Coaster Tycoon, SimCity briefly. I could never. I don't know if it was just me or if it was the timing or stuff, but I just could never quite get SimCity to work for me. I always ended up killing everybody in my city and just playing like God mode and meteor striking the entire town. I tried a couple RTSs, like Star Trek based ones. I don't remember what they were called because it's been so long I didn't play them all that much. Let me see. We had a lot of branded games in our house. 'Cause I remember doing Harley Davidson motorcycles, like Race Across America sort of thing. It was a racing game, obviously on Harley Davidson motorcycles, and you just raced against each other and you unlocked new ones. And it was interesting, but it wasn't anything great, so to speak. And again, I played The Sims for a bit, but games like that, or anything that gave me that sort of control. The Sims, SimCity, Roller Coaster Tycoon, anything that gave me like god power over a group of people or an area or something, it ended badly. And I mean really badly for whatever I had control over. I remember in The Sims, I would get them, and then it didn't take me too long for me to get that little kid understanding of like, hey, if I ask them to get something, then they just like pull it out of their butt, which is a strange mechanic to put into a game, but I'm not going to judge. It's still fairly interesting, and they still do it in modern Sims games, I know, because I've been watching some Let's Plays of The Sims 4, which just came out. But what I would do is I would go and put them in the house, and I'd cordon them off in this little room, and I'd fill the little room up with like hay bales and stuff, and anything that would catch fire quickly. And then you could tell your sim to pull a rocket out of their butt and set it off in their house, which would, of course, light all the hay bales on fire and kill your sim. I was a terrible, disturbed child, I'm quite sure. And probably still terrible and disturbed even to this day. Roller Coaster Tycoon, didn't take me any time at all to figure out, hey, you can make a gigantic pool of water and then just pick up people and drop them into it. This sounds like fun. Or you can set your roller coasters to launch off the end of the track, and you will have a lot of dead guests that way too. Or, like I said, with SimCity, you could launch meteors on them or have tornadoes or any other sort of natural disaster, and you had control over that. And you could just, like, destroy everything. I was one of the evil gods of old, raining down fire and terror upon my little peons. And I was a terrible, terrible person, and I still am. I'm quite sure. But yeah, PC gaming was just kind of like that basic intro, and there was some overlap with some other things, but that was just kind of like my basic intro into like home gaming. That was how I figured out, hey, I can take this really great experience that I had at the arcade and bring it into my house. The one thing that I lost when I did that was interaction with other people. And thankfully we've gotten it back now, but that's gonna be in a couple more days. And next time I'll probably get into like actually having my first dedicated gaming system and some other fun things like that. So I hope you all have enjoyed. Like I said, this is kind of a running short series recommended to me as a topic by Lieke. There's a link to his channel in the description down below. I highly recommend you go check him out. I'm still trying to catch up on his Fable videos, which are coming out in great haste, and I'm rushing to keep up. So yes, check him out. I will see you all next time. Goodbye.